being a part of our study today in Deuteronomy. We're in chapter 27. We're going into a passage where the people are divided. You have one set of people over on one mountain and one on the other. One side is going to pronounce blessings, the other is going to pronounce curses. We're going to start off with curses. So he says that when you've crossed over the Jordan, stand on Mount Gerizim. Did I pronounce that right? Yeah. All right. And the others are going to stand on Mount Ebal for the curse. So we're going to start off with the curses. Bad news first. Rudy just pointed out to me a second ago, curses are longer than the blessings because if you do what you're supposed to do,
it's simple.
It's simple.
It's a lot more complicated when you're not.
That's exactly right. So I'm going to just do highlights. Verse 15, cursed is anyone who makes an idol. Let me just stop there. Why is it so important to not have an idol?
Because the singularity of the Lord is the message.
Right.
And really, to have divided attention is going to take you places that you do not want to go.
Correct.
It's corrosive.
Right. No, that's perfect. In my reading, Peter Craigie in his commentary on Deuteronomy points out that God does not want to be seen as an image where people would confuse the image with God. God wants to be seen as one who communicates in relationship with people. And so how people knew God was through his acts in history and through his communication with them, rather than some form or an image that human beings had constructed. Which I thought that was a pretty interesting way to look at it.
It's true. I think for Christianity, when we're having trouble, when we're in troubles, or trying to make a decision of what to do, I'm not so sure that we can come exactly to the book to be able to define what we're supposed to do. This is a path, like we were talking about a couple of days ago, and that God puts guardrails on us so we don't fall off the edge. But ultimately, as Christians, and because of Pentecost 2,000 years ago, we had the ability to hear from the Lord and to see the Lord. Not to see him in the way that the apostles saw him with them, but lately, I have been trying to turn and look at the Lord and to see him. Yeah. And in prayer, on the things that I'm praying for, it's somehow, this is a way to be in his presence in a different way. And it has to do with what you were saying about images. The kind of images that he puts in your mind are completely different than an idol that you would have on a table.
Exactly.
And really, to look inside is, I think, what all of these processes were meant for us to use to get to what he really wanted us to see is him, us seeing him in our mind's eye.
Right. Okay. Yes, sir. I'm with you. Let's go. So, cursed is anyone who dishonors father or mother. Parents are to teach your children. How are the children going to learn about God if they refuse to hear from their parents? Cursed is anyone who moves a neighbor's boundary marker. Cursed is anyone who misleads a blind person on the road. Cursed is anyone who deprives the alien, orphan, or widow of justice. Let's just stop. That's sort of a section. You want to pick one of those or two of those and just comment on them?
Well, moving boundaries, you would be, I believe, I was thinking about this morning. If you were to change the boundary marker with your neighbor, what's the next thing that you're going to steal? Yeah. And the thing is, just like we were saying earlier, it's corrosive. And God's trying to keep you from spiraling down. Yeah. And each each one of these curses is a magnification of an individual commandment.
Right.
And just like Bob was saying earlier, the law is pretty simple. When we start breaking it, it's when it becomes complicated.
Right.
But he gives us these few examples to help us grow in where evil begins. I mean, you might think that I wasn't really stealing, thou shalt
Right.
not steal,
Right.
by moving my neighbor's markers, but you were stealing from his children.
Yeah. Earlier I commented to Rudy that if the world we're living in followed the Ten Commandments and just basic laws like we're reading here, our world would be a much safer and blessed place. And I think about moving a neighbor's boundary, particularly in history. Nations thought nothing, including the one that we belong to, thought nothing about taking the property of other nations and colonizing them or making them their own. And there is, when you go back to the historical roots of some of the deep pain in our world, it came when countries like the United States and France and Belgium and the Great Britain, where China, where we just came in and said, we're taking this property. And you know, a current example would be North Korea is a total wreck because Russia said when after the Korean War, we'll take this, we'll make it communist. And South Korea thankfully became something of a democracy. I could talk about that for quite a while with some intelligence, some just emotion. But that's it. Let's zip through here some more. So there's a number of verses 18 through 23 that deal with improper sexual relations. So for verse 19, through 23. And so God is very concerned that we maintain proper sexual relations. And if we don't, we're in trouble.
And it all goes back to be one flesh.
Right.
Ultimately, when you do these, when you do things outside of marriage, you're opening yourself up to all the evil the other person had done, and then you bring it back into your own family, and it's reopened again because you open the doors to that.
That's correct. So let's go down just the last couple of them. Cursed be someone who strikes down a neighbor in secret. Cursed is someone who takes a bribe to shed innocent blood. That's that innocent blood thing we've talked about before. And cursed is anyone who just doesn't do the law. So that's the bad news. Tomorrow we look at the good news. Do you want to have a last comment?
Well, Jesus is asked, what are the greatest commandments? And basically they are the two filters that I think that we can use our whole life,
Yes.
that we can use for our lives. And God is one, and do unto others as you would have done unto yourself. If you use those as a filter, so to speak, in everything that you do, none of these curses would ever come upon you.
Absolutely. Hey, thanks for being a part, Rudy. Thank you. We'll see you tomorrow.